Welcome to video 38. Let's talk about the steps that are required in order to connect to PayPal and submit a payment. PayPal has a really useful interactive tutorial showing that 5-step process, and I suggest you take a look. It's the last link in our resources.txt file, and that's what I'm looking at now. Once you get here, make sure you've connected and you're taking a look at the PHP code specifically. And the first step looks like this. Basically, you're going to provide your client ID and your client secret to PayPal as a way of authorizing yourself. It's saying, here's my username and password. I'm a valid web application that should have access. And again, that client ID and the client secret is within the PayPal developer section, specifically the Applications My Apps section. So to go back to it, we're going to be providing this information and asking for a temporary access token that allows us to connect with PayPal and work with the services. And PayPal is going to return a JSON response that says, yes, you can access it, assuming everything worked out correctly. So the next step would be to provide PayPal with the information about the transaction that you want it to complete. So that includes things like the payment method, which in this case is PayPal. Could also be credit card. You're going to set the currency and the total. You might set things like tax information or shipping information. We're going to be sending a list of the individual items that the person is going to be purchasing. And finally, we're also going to be sending information related to a return URL and a cancel URL. So the return URL is what's going to be set if the person successfully checks out. That's going to redirect them back to our site. And the cancel URL is going to redirect them back to the site if they decide they don't want to pay after all. So assuming we submit this code to PayPal, it's going to take a look at the code. It'll return us a JSON response. Ideally, everything will work out well, and if there are no mistakes or no errors in our code, it's going to send us to a specific URL on PayPal.com itself. In this case, we're dealing with the sandbox, so this is all testing code we're dealing with right now. And I'll automatically redirect them to this link, which looks like this. On the left-hand side, you'll have information about the payment. It usually includes more information about this, about the payment, such as totals and items, etc. You'll see that in action when we start working with code. So let me go ahead and log in. I'm going to log in as my personal testing account that I had set up. Just a really minor thing to note, I had to remove and re-add those 2 accounts that I set up within Sandbox accounts, I believe. Pardon me, let me re-log in here. Okay, so you'll notice I have my 2 Sandbox test accounts set up. I needed to remove them because I was doing some testing, and I re-added them, and it seems for some reason that I can't delete and then re-add the same exact email address, so I had to add a 2 at the end of them. So that's just why it's slightly different. But once I log in here, actually, I think that I may have, because I ran into this when I was testing. Let's go ahead and access this code. I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to open up a new window. And I've opened it up in the incognito mode, which means it's kind of completely separate. I have run into problems where PayPal has kind of cached cookies, I believe, on my machine. And if you run into an error like we just did, try running it in incognito mode. You shouldn't have any problems. So to get back to where we were trying to log in via PayPal. So pay with my PayPal account. Okay, so it's going to ask me Just to confirm that I've read the terms and conditions, so yes. You'll notice a cancel link down at the bottom of the page there. So we have a testing account with test information in place. We're going to pay with our PayPal balance. Click continue. Now we're going to be sent back to whatever URL that we specified, and we need to do one final thing to kind of make it active to complete this payment. We need to execute the payment. So we're temporarily sending PayPal information, the visitor approves the payment, and then we need to complete and execute the payment to finish the process. So once we do that, we'll get a JSON response and we'll get a payment status that says approved, and we've completed the entire process. So 5 steps, starting with asking for an access token, providing PayPal with information about our transaction. PayPal will then send the person to PayPal where they'll check out, and then they'll send it back to us where we execute the payment to finalize things and get a success message. So pretty straightforward. Hopefully that's easy to understand. We're going to be following those steps through in our code. So join me in the next video. I'll be starting work both on our payments class and on our checkout.php page.